On your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective, in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice in control.
Yeah, trying to find the right path sometimes is a struggle. A jigsaw in the dark, missing pieces, unknown puzzle. Blurry fuzzy pictures as the mind becomes clear. Fairy tale of a wolf, a boy crying, a near fear. Scribbling numbers, writing notes, a clue that you find. The hope being one day sharing them with the hive mind. Swapping and dropping the blue and swallowing the red pill. NPCs all around, distorted reality is how you still feel. Should you risk going alone down that rabbit hole, or ask the hive mind, see what else your big brother stole? Collective consciousness helps uncover any clue. Powerful ideas shared amongst the whole crew. And the best thing about it, transaction cost is free. Plop just a drop of water, more splash in a tsunami.
Your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective, in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice in control.
That single ripple echoes, a signal in the sea. Unlocking every deadbolt, we forge a master key. They built the maze to break us, to keep us all apart. But every node connected is a brand new place to start. So dump your data stream here, your theories and your doubt. Let the pattern sniffers work, the hidden logic out. From a million different angles, we analyze the code. Lighten up the burden and we share the heavy load. The picture gets clearer, the static starts to fade. A brand new foundation by the collective has been laid.
On your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective, in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice in control.
The picture gets clearer, the static starts to fade. A brand new foundation by the collective has been laid. So let them call you crazy with your tinfoil hat. It's a necessary filter for the mindless chit-chat. They broadcast their agenda, selling lie after lie, while drawing strange new patterns in a crisscross sky. But that hat ain't for hiding, it's an antenna now you see. Tuned into the frequency of the minds that wanna be free. The frantic search for answers you once did all alone is now a data packet uploaded from your phone. So polish up your helmet, there's no need to ever doubt. We're the ones who see the signal when the rest have tuned it out.
On your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective, in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice in control.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective, in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice in control.
What is going on, Hive? Today is Sunday, July 27th, 2025. And pull up a seat, buckle the hell up, because tonight we're not going to be playing nice. This roundtable, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to pretend that anything about this case makes a lick of sense. We're all done with watching the media lie about it, and it is about damn time that people start to call this mess out exactly for what it is. And so I have everybody backstage. Truth and Neurons, Robin the Redneck, and Sherlock Roams are ready to go. They're excited. I'm excited. I know the Hive is excited. We are going to have some great topics to discuss. I want to say what's up to everybody that's tuning in on this Sunday evening. Amina, Phoenix, Kathy, woke up 1984, has been waiting for an hour. Love that. Mean Mama said, yeah, the bee stings. We love it. Hell yeah. Karen, Nick, we're going to bring it, Bo. That's right. Yeah, thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. It's been an anniversary weekend at this point. Dana, how you doing? Reggie, Siver, good to see you. Potsy McPots 3, I am pumped as well. Your favorite uncle, yo. Momo's thinking, what's up? Amen to that, Wit. The answer lies in the beginning of it all. It does make you wonder, Peggy. Claire, the great Berdino. I cannot believe how much the Berdino thing stuck. I don't mind it. It's hilarious. We got Sue tuning in from South Africa. Where's everybody else tuning in from tonight? I love that, Joyce. Love that. Luna, good to see you. Dawn, that's exactly right. All right, we got Yorkshire, UK, Texas, Florida, Indianapolis, Berdino's basement. That's a little concerning, but I like the UFO dog, so we'll let it slide. Texas, West Virginia, Michigan, North Carolina, Melbourne. Sammy T's in the house, repping the Bills Mafia in the Hive. Love that. Kansas, Hive down under, Illinois, North Florida, Missouri, Iowa, Northeast Ohio, fabulous Las Vegas, Southwest Florida, Pennsylvania, Rockwall, Texas, North Carolina, Missouri, East Coast, Canada, War Eagle. Sean's tuning in from Bama. I saw Scotland, Oregon, Indiana, Tennessee. And let's see. Let's try to finish on. Oh, I saw Sweden. Nice. Welcome. And South Dakota. Well, as I said, Hive, thank you all for tuning in for this evening's roundtable. It's going to be a good one. The Hive sees through the noise. The agenda is the most obvious it's ever been. It's getting more and more obvious throughout the day. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to burn this MF to the ground because I'm getting annoyed by seeing these police reports and reading the stuff that's coming out and what people are digging into. More so just because it doesn't make sense why they hit anything. And so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring up Truth and Neurons, Robin the Redneck, and Sherlock Roams. Thank you, Casually Colombia, tuning in from Chile. Welcome to the Hive. Thank you for being here. Without further ado, everybody, this is our second official Hive Mind Roundtable. Sherlock Roams, Truth and Neurons, and Robin the Redneck. How are you all doing this evening?
Really
Doing
well.
well, thanks.
Hello, hello.
I am so excited to have everybody here, and thank you to everybody who did submit to be on the roundtable. If you didn't get picked, that doesn't mean the next time you won't. This is done the last Sunday of every month, and the first one was epic. I have no doubt that this one's going to follow suit. And so to kick this roundtable off, I had asked you three a question backstage, and I think it's a good spot to start this conversation. I think the Hive will agree because a lot of people have been talking about it. What the hell do you make of all the information in the police report with Jack Showalter's apartment? Because
It's really interesting, I'll tell you that much. It just kind of blows my mind how he was cleared so quickly.
I agree. And do you guys believe the typo aspect of the parenthesis for the 9 instead of it being? I just feel like that seems like a very convenient, like,
Mm-mm.
of
Hell
course.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Come on. I mean, it's a horrible way to explain away 90 missing blood samples.
It was a
But,
typo.
you know, nothing surprises me in this case anymore at all. So
Yeah.
That's exactly it. There's no more surprises. It's all it's. I got analysis paralysis trying to get through the new docs. It's just it's mad.
It is mad. And one of the things that I want to talk about, speaking of the documents, Truth and Neurons, is I'm a little bit surprised because I feel like I am a fairly quick reader. There's some people who seem to have gotten through hundreds of these documents like within a couple hours. And I'm with Devil's Advocates. I heard him saying, he's like, I'm through like 50. And I was through about 50. I was through the first folder of them as well. Have you guys gotten through all of them, or are you guys looking deep into them, or what's kind of your take on these police reports generalized?
For me, we've had a cybersecurity incident, and I don't want to get all paranoid, but I do have my tinfoil just in case. I'm only down to my phone and all the other things that, they're all locked out. So I haven't had a chance to go through the docs. I've had to rely on all you amazing creators out there to really just get the top line from what's in there. But I can't wait to sink my teeth into it.
Yes, absolutely. And Chrissy, thank you. And I apologize for not introducing. We got Truth and Neurons is down in the bottom right. Robin the Redneck is right down below me. And Sherlock Roams is the emblem up in the upper right. So I apologize for not giving the full-on intro. Thank you, Chrissy, for the reminder. No, I agree. So Sherlock, Robin, Truth and Neurons, where do you guys want to start? You guys want to start at the end and work backwards? Do you guys want to start from the beginning, or is there a specific instance that is recently just been bothering you that you've seen it talked about in the Hive or elsewhere that you want to discuss?
Well, I'll jump off of what he just said. I have a lot of material that I trust. I trust my own gut, and a lot of material that is empirical in nature that I trust. And these new documents, I'm not looking too closely at them, to be perfectly honest with you, because I don't trust them. And it's hard for me to believe that law enforcement is going to suddenly start telling the truth. A lot of this information is information that wouldn't have harmed the case or anyone if it was released earlier. So why is it being released now? And it even could have quelled a lot of speculation as well. So that kind of tells me they didn't want to do that. They wanted to increase speculation. And the way I see it, there was a first round of disinformation that came out, and mainstream media went full speed ahead with that, and law enforcement was their source. And now, they were in that unhealthy relationship with each other, and now there's trouble in paradise. Now they're fighting. Now they're breaking up, right? Mm-hmm. Just classic reality TV. Big breakup. Now they're pointing the finger at each other. And I don't know. I suspect that it's possible that this is all a second round of disinformation. But of course, I'll eventually get to it. And I'm just not looking too closely at it right now. I don't trust it.
Well said. And I think I just want to give you props for that, for saying that, because you summed up, I think, exactly what is so important for people to follow that instinct in their gut. How many people have said that's a little bit weird about the Idaho 4th? There's a little bit weird about, you got I'm thinking about other high profile cases. You got like West Memphis 3, the Central Park 5, you got John Benet, all these ones. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. There's so much discrepancy in the police reports, and it's after the fact. And I would argue those are documented cases where they've changed it. So kudos to you for saying that. And I totally agree. I don't think it's a stretch at all that they might have a second round of disinformation coming out. Robin, how do you feel about all that? You agree?
Well, yeah, I definitely agree. I think there may be some nuggets, good nuggets in these documents, but I also kind of feel as though this is kind of like busy work in a way, because they know that we all just have this voracious appetite now for information. And so they're like, here you go. Here's some documents. Go ahead and look through these, and to kind of keep us busy, to keep look at this here, but don't look over there. That the thing we've been dealing with for how long now. And so while I think there's probably some good stuff in here, I also do think we have to take some of it with a grain of salt.
Well
Yeah,
said.
I think there's some good stuff in there. Yeah, I'm not saying everything in there is not true or anything like that. So all the best lies and psyops are built around core pillars of truth.
Right.
That is how it works.
Yep.
So our job is to delineate those two things, but much like dropping over 50 terabytes of information on Ann Taylor's pretty little head,
yeah,
it's a lot of busy work. And then defunding her defense fund and her having to go solo to keep things afloat, so she can't get a paralegal team that is commensurate with that amount of work, feels very similar.
I would agree. And, I do wonder, to the point about these documents and it being maybe a little bit of busy work. Is it kind of like the operation or whatever they were trying to accomplish is done and it's over with? So it's either let them see it, because it really doesn't matter. Because in a way, what I'm asking is, were the police, were all of them even brought in onto this? How many actual everyday patrol officers knew that there was something going on? They maybe were doing their real work and their real job, doing these reports. And now after the fact, they're looking at it and they're like, well, yeah, there's nothing in there, but we can release it. I don't know, because would you tell everybody if there's some psyop or if there's a different ongoing parallel case? I don't know how that works. I'd be curious to ask Scott Payne tomorrow. Is the local law enforcement aware if there's informants or undercover in your area? Does anybody know?
I'd also like, not to navigate away from that, but
You're good.
There's a lot of focus on Moscow PD releasing all these documents. I've been, there's less attention on Washington, and yet there's a lot of actors. I think we were talking off stage before about some of the PD and the where Washington State Uni PD were involved in those early parts of identifying Koberger as a suspect. And there's so much attention on Moscow, I almost feel like it's ignored. And are there any other cases where the POSIS actually chimes in with, I think there needs to be more info on this? What was that about?
It's a great question. I've always wondered, when have you ever seen the president talk about what should be a straightforward stabbing?
Yeah.
Whether or not it's like, I'm not even making it a Trump thing. I'm saying anybody,
yeah,
ever.
Yeah.
And to say that there's nothing, which is odd. It's odd. Well, I guess again, it's like you got to remember, it is Trump, not afraid to share his opinion on social media, but it's like, but it is a little bit odd. Like that's a pretty big opinion to throw out there on an ongoing Supreme Court death penalty case that the president of the country it's occurring in says there is nothing. He should at least have to explain himself. Then to go to the courtroom, I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, for that plea and that sentencing, when Brian Koberger is not facing the judge, not facing the seal of Idaho, everything in a courtroom is scripted and structured down to the T. And that to me tells me something, that it's not legitimate. It's not respected. He didn't stand, barely said his name. I went and rewatched the hearing. Brian Koberger, full name, 2 times. That's it.
Yeah. It's an epidemic, Birdie. It's an epidemic. There's nothing, right? How many cases do we, how we've heard that recently with other cases. I won't bring it up, but just seems to be pretty contagious, don't you think?
Yes, it is contagious. And I have a question for you guys. What do you think we would need to see to feel like we've been told the truth? Is there one document or is there one piece of evidence that you think has been speculated on whether hidden, redacted, or sealed in the court case summary, or one like, is it the missing Linda Lane footage? Would that solve this? I don't know. What do you guys have anything in mind?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think the missing Linda Lane footage would be a good start. But I think there's a lot of other pieces that, I'm sorry, we should just see it all. But I think the missing footage from Linda Lane would be a good starting point.
Yeah, I would agree. Do we hear a
My
gunshot?
my answer is the electropherogram charts of the IgG analysis and the lab technicians confronted, challenged, and cross-examined under oath. That is my answer, but can I piggyback on Linda Lane really quick here?
Yeah, go for it.
I'd love to know who edited that footage, who added all these pixel clouds on Blake Avenue and all these pixel clouds following the car around as it enters and exits Queen Road, that Queen Road area there. Just to give you a sense of how much is missing, because I feel like a lot of people don't really understand how much is missing from, first of all, the 3 a.m. hour. There's a whole half hour missing. I think that's critical. But I actually wrote it down. Let me just quickly run through this. 2:59 a.m. to 3:04, 5 minutes missing. 3:09 a.m., 22 seconds missing. 3:12 to 3:13 a.m., 19 seconds missing. 3:17 a.m., 20 seconds missing. 3:18 a.m., audio cut, 2 minutes. 3:19 a.m., 2 minutes missing. 3:22 a.m., 19 seconds missing. 3:30 to 4:06, I mentioned that already, 36 minutes missing. But also in the morning, 6:35 a.m., 11 seconds missing. 6:36 a.m., 13 seconds missing. 6:36 a.m., 13 seconds missing. 6:37 a.m., 11 seconds missing. 2 periods of 11 seconds missing in that minute, actually. 6:38 a.m., 13 seconds missing. 6:39 a.m., 11 seconds missing, and another segment of 13 seconds missing. 6:41 a.m., 13 seconds missing. 6:42 a.m., 2 different segments of 13 seconds missing. 6:43 a.m., 13 seconds missing. 6:46 a.m., 13 seconds missing. 6:47 a.m., 11 seconds missing. I'd love to know who leaked this, who edited. This is not camera failures. That's so much, like, that's edited out.
Yeah.
Who
That's a lot of
and who put all this cloud pixelation in certain areas, like but yeah, just real quick on the IgG. Sorry, I won't hog it here. I'm just,
Oh, you're good, man.
That's okay.
my answer was the IgG, and let me just find it here. Okay, I'd like to share with you just really quick. IgG is a subjective formula that is used to trace genealogy. It is not something that can identify a person. And before people go, Sherlock, that's your opinion. Well, it's not my opinion. Okay, I'm going to give you a quote here from a forensics journal that's a peer-reviewed journal. This is Oxford Forensics. This is Oxford Forensics by Dr. C.J. Greening, updated August of 2024, cited over 61 times by peers. So this is a legitimate source of information. Quote, IgG is not considered a scientific or forensic discipline like traditional DNA analysis and should never be used as exhibit evidence, as it is subjective, as it is a subjective result not intended to imply scientific identifying match for a suspect individual, end quote. And yeah, that is the primary reason why the defense wanted to exclude it. But when I look at, for example, the April 11th court order memorializing arguments for the motion in limine, there's a quote in here by Hippler saying that, quote, both parties moved to exclude IgG evidence for different reasons. Given the dual agreement, those reasons need not be discussed in open court. And I just don't like that logic. I mean, it does need to be discussed in open court. Like, that is why Brian got arrested. Imagine being on death, facing the death penalty, and like you can't bring up the arresting evidence to defend yourself. Like, that doesn't make any sense, right?
I don't think it makes any sense.
No.
And I think that it's dirty to hide it.
Yeah, definitely.
So if that comes out in court, Sherlock, what do you think would have happened? I understand your point about that's your arresting evidence. You should be able to argue that. I totally agree. But what I'm saying is, what do you think they're hiding?
I don't know what they're hiding, but they definitely ran away from it. Like all this, first of all, they allowed the media to do segment. No news segment anywhere talked about the academic consensus that it's not a scientific match of identity. They all stated the opposite for 2 years. Okay, we had 915 days of of court hearings, and that whole time, the mainstream media is saying that this is a match to Brian Kober. His DNA is on this knife sheath that was found under a victim's body, or next to it, or floating above it. We don't know.
Yeah.
It was really visible from outside the bedroom door, but over 20 trained forensic professionals missed it before Brett Payne got there late at 4, 5 o'clock, whenever the hell he got there. So that's the first thing, is that the media was allowed to not tell the truth. Okay. But the second thing is, what are they hiding? I mean, I personally feel as though they knew that the text script of the IgG doubling in size, especially now that we know that it stayed in one lab and they lied about the number of labs it went to. The only way for that text script to double in size with 2 lab assistants from one lab is a process called DNA amplification, which is another forensics journal. I have a video on that if you want to understand, but it's basically a way to fabricate IgG evidence. And they did a study. They did a test where they did it, and they sent it out to national accredited labs, forensic labs all over the country, and none of them noticed anything amiss. It looked normal to them. So this is a very real possibility that the state felt, or rather someone at the FBI who knows that it's fabricated, felt that such would be adjudicated and come out in court. And therefore, they don't want to use it anymore. They want to run away from it. After waving it around as their primary best evidence for 2 years, all of a sudden they want to run away from it. But they also still want to mention it as a tip. So they want to use it, but they don't want to use it. So they want to put it in the heads through the media. They want to put it in the heads of all prospective Ada County jurors for 2 years. You're not going to find any Ada County jurors, if there was a trial, who didn't know about the sheath and that it's a match to Brian Koberger. You're not going to find any of those people. Ada County was bombarded.
I've got a theory, if we go full psyops on this, that
let's go there.
Yeah, let's go there.
Let's trade tables up.
The potential, within the next 39 days, I think it is now, of the opportunity to lodge an appeal, looking through some of the Idaho rules, Rule 17, right to appeal. One of the criteria is the admission of inadmissible evidence. And it could be that it was included in there to be one of those criteria that they can bank for later on to then have the conviction thrown out, or at least justify an appeal. I don't know.
Well, so let
Absolutely.
me and Sherlock, and also Truth and Neurons, to wrap this all, to kind of come full circle. Quick story on how Sherlock and I met. Sherlock had made a video talking about a New York Times article, and I clipped it. And Sherlock, I don't know if he didn't watch it or if I didn't make it clear enough that I was being sarcastic. Sherlock then comes at me because he thought I was kind of shitting on the research he did, but I was using it and saying, see, this has been out for 16 years. What can they do now? And it was with 423 or 426 DNA profiles. They can construct any conceivable DNA profile without having the original person's DNA. So like Robin, Truth and Neurons, Sherlock, myself, they just have 426 profiles. They can make our DNA up without even having our DNA. That was done in 2009, came out of an Israeli, forget the name of the type of study it was, but it was a white paper and it was a study. And the New York Times wrote about it. So
yeah, it was Dr. Frumkin's study. Yep.
Yeah, great read.
Yeah, we were at odds with each other when we first met. Yeah, on TikTok. I did not realize that was sarcastic, and turns out we were in violent agreement the whole time.
It's kind of funny. Now look at us. All right, and
I know.
But to go full psyop, right? And I've seen this in the chat. Did Othram reverse engineer a DNA profile? And is that why they didn't want to kind of show how they got to this, the resting evidence. I mean, Robin, when you hear like DNA evidence, has this case changed the way you'd look at DNA moving forward?
Oh yeah. Now I'm going to date myself. I'm 53 years old. Okay.
Okay.
I grew up, pretty much a child of the 80s. And back then we were told you trust anything pretty much that, law enforcement and the officials tell you. And I'm also a very avid TV watcher. So when you you watch all these law shows that say, yeah, DNA, that's how we got it and all this, and then when I started getting into true crime a few years ago, I'm like, wait a minute, that just doesn't even wash. And now, especially through this case, learning that no, DNA is not what people think it is. And, I know that there are millions and millions of people out there who, like me, thought that, DNA was, the holy grail of, forensics. And it's really scary to find out now everything that they can do, and how any one of us at any time really could be a victim of these kind of actions.
Robin, how long ago was it that you sort of realized that about DNA? Like for me, it was only like a couple years ago that I became wise to this. So if we give grace to the public at large, that people disagree with us,
right?
Often, but yeah, I mean, it was recent.
Probably about a year ago. I want to say, because every time they kept saying, we got him through IgG, but we don't want to talk about it. And it's like, why not? If it's not reliable, why don't you want to talk about it? And then, spidey senses go off, and it's like, something is very, very rotten in Denmark. So, so I'm new to it too. And we do have to give some grace to people who are not aware and who don't understand the science behind it, and that the science is not always correct either.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Jeff, I'm just so curious. Jeff, how long ago was it for you that you realized that DNA is, just not as academic consensus as it's really portrayed to be?
For me, it was pretty much during this case, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was just, I didn't know that. I think it was learning that the profile was sent as an Excel file. I'm like, it blew my mind that you think it's this thing, this entity, and to find that I'll just punch some numbers into an Excel spreadsheet, send it through, and that's going to be sufficient for a profile.
Mm-hmm.
It's really changed the way I look at that as something that is so accurate and specific to identify someone.
Yeah. And like so many people in the Hive, to what you just said, Truth and Neurons, like Sharon even just said for her, it was this case that changed the perception of the DNA. I saw about 5-6 other comments fly by right when you said that. As we were just talking about going full PSYOP mode, and why I had brought up the 2009 article and why we are talking about the DNA is I just looked up, can Othram, a lab like Othram, reverse engineer or construct a DNA profile? What do they need for that? Okay. So Othram labs and similar advanced forensic labs can reconstruct a DNA profile without the original physical sample. Okay. They need to have only one of these four things: a raw DNA sequence, or data from a raw DNA sequence. So it says FASTQ, BAM, or VCF files, an STR profile from CODIS style tests, a partial SNP or SNP data from prior lab runs, or contaminated or degraded DNA traces. They can even do it. So what they actually use is AI-powered genome reconstruction tools that will rebuild just the DNA profile partially, and then they test that. So how trippy is that? They'll use AI to just build a partial enough profile to get a real hit. That's wild.
Wild.
Scary.
Scary.
Yeah.
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 Very.
So you're telling me that they're going to use AI. Like, let's say there's I'm for the simplicity of this example, here's what I'm going to say. Like a smudged fingerprint. There's obviously touching it, but I'm just saying, like, you need a full fingerprint, but it's smudged. So is that similar to what it would do with the DNA profiles? Like, it gets the pattern of just a tiny bit of that fingerprint, and the AI can guess what the rest of it looks like until you can get a hit on the standard test.
But we all know what AI does is it guesses. I mean,
Yeah.
it can create whatever it wants.
Yeah, and we all know that evidence authenticates itself, right? Self authenticating evidence.
Yeah.
I mean, if your standard is self authenticating evidence, why not use an AI? Like, then there is no standard. I just think it's wild that people don't see this, and it's getting harder for me to give grace to those people. But I do want to just keep the focus real quick on that. Just, I think if we're going to talk psyops, let's talk psychology, right? I have a degree for psychology as well. So I study mass psychology when it comes to marketing. And I've used
Marketing,
that
you said?
Yeah, marketing analytics and such. I focused a lot in retail, but consumer psychology, how people buy and make purchasing decisions and how to advertise to them. Okay. I think that but in terms of psyops, not about that. In terms of psyops, on a psychological level, on a mass level, I think that people are generally conflict avoidant, meaning that they would prefer to reach out and grab the comforting thought over the discomforting information first. Okay. And I think that's probably the primary barrier that most people have in accepting this information, that something's wrong here, that this doesn't look right. And so, while on one hand, it's kind of like an inner battle. Like, on one hand, I'm just so frustrated with everybody. But on the other hand, I understand that just a few years ago, I didn't know a lot of this stuff. So, yeah.
Right. It's kind of like once your eyes are open, at least for me, it's like, okay, if I can see this, and I'm not a psychology major or anything else, I'm just your typical, I don't know, whatever, layman or whatever. But if I can see it, why can't all these other people, And
homicide investigators should be able to see it.
Right. And this whole case brings up my mom. Now, she passed away in 2008, but the woman was ahead of her time, because she would be looking, I can hear her now going, told you, because she trusted nothing to do with very little to do with the government. And this is back during the age of dial-up. She was like, sorry, they know everything we're doing. They listen to all our telephone conversations. I don't ever want a computer, the whole 9 yards. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, she was right. And if I can see it now, kind of, it's hard to, realize that there's so many people that can't or just won't. I don't know.
It is odd. Go ahead, Truth and Neurons.
I was just going to say on the wiretap. I mean, that's some of the information I'd like to see come out of this. Is there's been, if we talk parallel investigations and all the DEA activity arresting different drug cartels in that northern corridor, and there's lots of wiretaps going on there. There's apparently trap and trace on phones. There's wiretaps on different discussions from prison. There's a lot more information out there that we don't know, that aren't in these documents that are released. And so, how much don't we know already in this case that for me, the appearance of Hurwitz and then going, who is this guy? I look into his background, realize the role he played in the DEA, to then look at the correlation of those events happening throughout that period, leading up to some fairly key events in the high intensity drug trafficking area in that Pacific Northwest. To go, it just seems to that there's a lot of other events. The blue, I think in the latest docs, there was something around there was a rolled up note with some blue powder. And that was an early thought, was it's got to be a cover up of a drug overdose or intentionally overdose. Yeah, it blows my mind. I'm literally, it turns sideways every time you look at this case.
Well said. And how about this to sum up all of this? Because while this might not be a PSYOP question, it is a question that does favor in the answer being a PSYOP. And that is, why do we cover up any of this? Why has that become an accepted thing that we can hide behind an ongoing investigation? And it's not just America. Countries all over the world do this. I can't talk about this. It's an ongoing investigation. We have let public officials go on for far too long, being able to use that as an excuse when you get asked that by a reporter. So my question is, yeah, it's the wimp. It's like a wimp's way out of it. Like, just answer the question. If you, and maybe that's because everybody's getting sued all over the place, or who knows what it is. I also think too, like the suing culture is out of control when you're using freedom of speech. It's wild. So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Ask your question.
Oh, I was just going to finish the question with like, so why cover anything up? Well, like if you ultimately think about it, it's a system that's been bred to cover all of this up. It's a system that's been bred for us to not know the truth. So with something as simple as a straightforward college town homicide with a K-bar bought off of Amazon, touched DNA on the sheath by a single perpetrator, why would you cover that up? Why all the secrecy? And that's where I said it leads to maybe a psychological operation.
Yeah, I think that there's also the notion of the parallel background investigation going on and all these other events tied to this crime. But why cover up those connections? Like, it begs the question, why cover that up too? And the answer they give us, Bertie, is because it's for the greater good, and you don't want to give your pursuants the information that could give them the advantage. But here's the problem with that justification. Here's the problem with it. We've got FBI, we've got FBI agents like Mowry who are not saving their CASVIZ logs, who are taking screenshots of, Mowry, why didn't you save your work on that CASVIZ log? Right. And his answer is, I logged out of the session, and it's just something I normally do, is log out that way, and it doesn't save it. Okay, well, then Ann Taylor finds out, well, it's actually archived. So Mowry, do you mind just pulling it out of the archive for us and bringing it to open court so we can see it? Okay, well, actually, you know what? It's not in the archive. I deleted it, is his next answer. And it's just something I do. I delete my text messages all the time, right? And so here's a screenshot. So I pulled it up. I have a screenshot of my desktop, and I'll take a screenshot of that. Here's a screenshot of a screenshot. Right?
They've been using that a lot in the case.
When you add all that to the FBI not having a 7-day limitation on timing advance records, they could have gotten those timing advance records at any time. Any honest homicide investigator chasing down a quadruple homicide suspect or suspects would get every piece of info. They would chase down every piece. They would do. There's not a platoon that you could drop in there in front of them if they're an honest investigator and want the truth. There's not a platoon you could drop in there that would stop them from getting that timing advance information. And the FBI had full access to that the entire time. They chose not to get it. Why? So basically, my point is, their justification is there's a parallel investigation in the background. It's for the greater good. We don't want to give the suspects that we're chasing, in this case or parallel, any information that they can't use to their advantage. But then that doesn't jive. That doesn't jive with all of these instances where they're running away from, or rather not doing things that any honest homicide investigator would do. And that's what makes me think it's a psyop, right? That's what makes me think it's a psyop. And it kind of just makes me upset because, you know, our government is not here to study our predictive behavior.
No.
Like we're lab rats, okay? The government as an institution is not here for that. And we as a civilian population, right? That institution, as we the people, we are not here to be specimens in their lab. That is not why these two institutions exist. And cognitive warfare on a civilian population is completely illegal. We have laws in place. If you want to know those laws, go to my video. It's titled Hard Power versus Soft Power. You can listen to a psychology expert. His name is Dr. Jonas Togel. He goes over some NATO programs that are active in cognitive warfare on multiple civilian populations right now. But he goes over the legislation of why it's illegal to do that. And it's also illegal to abuse confidentiality as well. It's illegal to use national security confidentiality to hide from the American people knowledge and evidence of a criminal act using redaction classification. It's illegal under the Espionage Act of 1917. It's illegal under 18 U.S.C. Section 798, 18 U.S.C. Section 1001, 18 U.S.C. Section 1520, 18 U.S.C. Section 1519. And it's illegal. It is illegal. So if we're right, okay, if we're wrong, nobody gets hurt, right? If we're wrong, nobody else gets hurt. But if we're right, lots of other people keep getting hurt. So what's everybody's problem with us, you know, hypothesizing? It's a healthy thing for society to do, to hypothesize about our own sense of public safety.
Robin, were you going to say something?
Shamed.
I was just going to say, you know, Sherlock, you said about the greater good. Who's greater good? That is the question. Is it my greater good, your greater good?
The greater good of the
I'm going to go with the psyop, and I'm going to go the conspiracy. You know, who's greater good? Because it doesn't feel like it's the common man's greater good. It really does not.
It's definitely
Comes
not our
down to economics.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it comes down to economics. If we look at coming full circle to suspects that have been named in recent docs and their connection to a university in the town, you know, you're a small town, as someone pointed out in a video I watched recently. You know, when people are home on break, it's a ghost town, and there's a reliance on that student cohort. So I wonder if there was a realization of how big this would blow up, that they thought, we've got to kind of put it to bed so that there's not that reputational damage.
Well, the Constitution is more important than that, in my opinion, and I think most people would agree. But go ahead, Bertie.
No, I totally agree with that. I was just going to say, I want to know why at this point these agencies actually, you know what? I'll refer it back to Sammy T Mafia's video. If you guys have seen that stream where she had a guest, she sent me a clip of a guest that was on Tucker Carlson and it was talking about the Epstein stuff. And I'm not here to talk about the Epstein thing. It was what he said that really, it was so profound to me and it stuck with me, is these agencies, they're not lying to try to pull one over on us anymore. We all know that it's a lie, right? We all know so many situations that they're clearly lying. They don't care that we know.
Yeah, their lies contradict each other.
Exactly. So they don't care about that. It's a signal to those that they are lying for of their loyalty to continue to protect them. Like, look, everybody knows that we're lying, but we're still going to do it for you. It's crazy. It drives me crazy. And the first line of defense, and I say this half-heartedly, but it's very serious and it's very concerning, because at what point, if it's not already, is this a danger to the general public? And that's the first line of defense for these giant media corporations are the mouth-breathing, fluoridated zombies. They're the NPC zombies that they just stare at their TV and then they'll fight people like us, people they don't know, for having a different opinion than the talking figurehead that's on their television every night at 7 p.m.
Yeah,
And it's
it is a public safety issue. It is like if they
It
don't
is.
if they don't have the right person, like if this crime happened for real, which I'm totally on the fence of at this point, but if the crimes are real and they don't have the right person, then those people are not going to stay in Idaho. Like there's not going to be a state border that can stop that, like, that's going to contain them. They're going to be walking amongst us in other states. Like this is a public safety issue, and I've had members of my own family be victims of homicide before. I've given sentencing hearing impact statements. Like I know the pain that the victims' families are going through. I understand it, but that there's no monopoly on everybody else's sense of public safety. So the shaming and the thought policing needs to stop.
Yeah.
yes, the thought policing. It's tough because the algorithms on social media, I am not saying this for any other reason other than for the point that we're making here of quote unquote, public safety. The algorithms reward the parroted talking points by people for people who post online. They don't reward the contrarian thinker. They don't reward, like they'll put you in a shadow ban, or they'll not push it because you're not using the keywords that are going along with the collective narrative. And that's also a huge problem. That's a huge problem. Like Devil's Advocates brought up, like TikTok has changed. The algorithm has changed. I mean, it goes through these changes and they change it, and people get concerned about it for their views. I get concerned about it for the information that's going to come across my feed, where I'm like, I want to know about this wild shit that's going on, that somebody's uncovered the truth, but they're not pushing it. It's very hard to find where to look. So I think one of the attractions to the Hive and to this stream is that once you find it, you're then connected to a bunch of other people that are all thinking the same way. And you're now there's a limitless resource of where to look. And I think that's powerful.
I think the difference here, though, also is it's not just an echo chamber. We're here to bring up different views and debate them, rather than being when you look at a television mainstream media, it's a outbound communication. Unless they're broadcasting on YouTube, they may or may not check their comments, probably don't, but this has much more of an interactive format versus just stating a news report, as you said, at 7 p.m. to the mouth-breathing zombies.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's so true, though. And, so I think the thing for the PSYOP goes back to the psychological conditioning of people avoid any conflicting thoughts or uncomfortable truths, right? So that whole statement of like, you can't handle the truth. Yeah, I can only speak for America in our culture. I believe that there's a lot of people that they can't handle the uncomfortable truth. I've used my mother as an example. I start talking about like Epstein or some shit or whatever on Thanksgiving, and she's like, Kyle, I can't stop. I can't. And it's like, you're complicit in a way. You need to learn about this. Now, are you going to go tell a bunch of people? Are you not? But no, by not wanting to hear it because it makes you personally feel uncomfortable, it might as well be the same thing as you regurgitating it in a way, the false narratives, because you're just going to continue to believe the false narratives until you learn the opposite.
Agreed. And some of that is in this day and age being taught in our schools, that again, you don't question the narrative. You just sit with your tongue in your mouth and just, you believe what we choose to teach you. And so I think that has to stop. I think that we have to go back or definitely encourage more critical thinking. Thinking.
Absolutely.
And I completely agree. Bertie, you said that your mother has a hard time with it. Yeah, my family members do too. And I lost my train of thought. My family members also have a hard time with it. And I just think we just need to remember that that's where we came from too, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so frustrating, but yeah.
When I was studying a few years ago, I came across a book that was written in the 80s by a guy called Joshua Mayowitz. It's called No Sense of Place. And it was talking about how the communication changed with the release of TV and how it broke open what was traditionally a group talking circle into a kind of one way. We break the circle, we're facing a screen which would tell us. But then all the resulting cultural effects that happened after that in terms of backstage, the instead of it being a soapbox speech by candidates in the town square, you're seeing them after hours and behaving in ways that aren't necessarily representative of good standing, to a chapter that I think goes to the point of what we're talking about here, which was called the parent-like child and the childlike adult. And it talked about younger generations being much more receptive to media, and that often what would happen is that the younger members of the family would then be saying, hey, you can't say that anymore, or this has changed. They're much more tuned into media. And I saw this publication, this book, as it still was on point when I looked at it through a frame of social media instead of it being TV. Social media has really changed, and a lot of that is still very much the case of if you are stuck in an echo chamber or you're not aware of what's happening online, then you need to be open to those different perspectives.
Absolutely, Jeff. And you triggered my memory and you reminded me what I was going to say. Thank you so much. And I completely agree. Like, that evolution of technology and media is absolutely our advantage as well. And it kind of reminds me of like Lena from Truth and Transparency, right? Like, she catches a lot of heat because there's a lot of times Lena won't go where we go in terms of criticizing the case or what have you, but it's for a reason. I think people don't understand it's for a reason. Like, I can tell Lena knows. I can tell she knows the full ugly truth, but the way that the model she uses for her channel is fantastic. I mean, she sticks just with the court documents, and she walks through the court documents with the preservation of the Constitution and proper justice front and center. Whereas a channel like mine puts the rigging of the system and calling out of the psyops front and center instead. But we need channels like mine and yours, Jeff, and yours, Robin, and Bertie. They're all important, and we need channels like Lena too. Lena is going to have a better chance to reach out to the people, like, the kind of person that I was a few years ago when I wouldn't be receptive to all this information. She's going to have a better chance reaching them and changing their mind because of the model she uses. And that's why her channel is important. And I respect it so much. I absolutely love it. She does an unbelievable job. She's gotten to a point almost where it seems like she knows what the primary criticisms are going to be against her. And so she has certain lines she won't cross. Like, she's going to go through the documents and she's going to stick with, it's possible Brian's a guilty party or involved, and she's going to always come through that lens. And it's necessary. A lot of people may not like it, but it's necessary because, you'll attract more bees with honey than vinegar, right? Yep. And my channel's more for the people who are soaked in vinegar already. And the more successful Lena is, the more people my channel gets eventually. You know what I mean? Like, it's a mutual symbiosis. And I just want to point that out with the evolution of social media. To Jeff's point, that speaks perfectly to why psyops should be illegal. Like, we shouldn't have to create these models and these channels to do this, but important part of our public safety.
And here's a question that has been reverberating in my head lately. What good are these psyops really doing? What good are they doing? I mean, like, seriously, the cartels are still here. Am I supposed to not say that word? Whatever. The sea gangs are here. They're not going anywhere. Let's face it. Let's call it what it is. We've been after these guys for how long? And it's just this vicious cycle. And I can't see that we've made any headway. And are certain okay, who was it that had that video about Omerta? The other, was it Translucent?
True crime design.
True crime
True
design.
crime
Thank
design,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So what good is happening here? And who in law enforcement, and there's tons of great law enforcement out there, there really are. But you can't have that faction without some cooperation from the good guys.
I agree. And I think it's important for people to remember that a PSYOP is not done for justice. It's done for power. It's meant to steer a narrative. It's meant to gain control. It's meant to manipulate perceptions. And I don't know if there's ever been any PSYOP that doesn't have a backhanded slap to one party or another, more times than not being the public. Right. And so it can control the narrative. It distracts the public. That's another aspect of it, is it's distracting. So while maybe there's like, I'm almost 100% convinced too that it's very obvious when you see a story pop onto the news shortly after a real big event took place, right? You'll get something like the submarine that goes missing at the bottom of the ocean. They have then the clock of the oxygen left next to it. And whether or not it's a real story, it's just like they're making a certain story bigger than it has to be. Not that those people's lives aren't important. You get the point what I mean. They had it on for however many days, right? And I just think it also normalizes what we've seen in the court documents, right? It normalizes redactions. It normalizes secrecy. It normalizes things that the public can't handle the truth for. And what happens when that gets normalized is it stops people from critically thinking.
Right.
And I've always said breaking news has been broken for years. You listen to the breaking news in the morning, they have the entire story figured out. They're like, breaking news. They could say, Birdie was at this grocery store and stepped in a piece of gum and blah, 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 blah. And then he got mad. He called someone an NPC, mouth breathing zombie, and got arrested. And like, but that's the whole story. They just told me what happened. It's not really breaking news. You just told me the story.
Yeah,
So,
it does more. It does more than just offer distractions and neuters critical thinking. It also divides us. It divides the populace into two debating groups, and study after study after study. The most recent one I saw was from Duke University, shows that debates do not change minds. Debates do the opposite. Debates have people digging their heels into their original position and doesn't advance anything. That's why at the Thanksgiving dinner table, you can't change your Uncle Randy's, everyone's angry by the end of the political discussion at the Thanksgiving dinner table. That's why debates are meant to divide. That's what the media wants. They want us to be divided, right? Constant, endless debate about war equals endless profits for war. Constant debates about something law enforcement needs to cover up provides the cover that they need to do so. And just to jump off Robin's point, if you take the Epstein ring, for example, the government admits that it is an international ring. They admit that. And they admit it's been around for 80 plus years, a long time. And if we're just going to talk about PSYOP truth, okay, well, an operation that's international like that cannot be successful. I'm just going to say it can't be successful without the help with law enforcement. There has to be some form of law enforcement helping them, and it can't be run by two people. It can't be run by Ghislaine and Jeffrey. We're not the only two people running an international ring, right? So common sense should be able to dictate to us. But Robin, when you asked, like, what's it all for? Well, it's for things to usurp the Constitution, like the Patriot Act. And I was troubled today to see an article about the Patriot Act. It's been in place for, 2001. So 24 years. It's been in place for 24 years. Did you guys know that in 24 years, the Patriot Act has not aided in a single prosecution of terrorism?
I'm not surprised. I did not know that, but I'm not surprised.
that's irrefutable proof that it is an abject failure of a policy. And yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So what's it for? It's hard for me to see what it's for.
Exactly.
And Robin, I should have said this earlier. Sorry for the loss of your mother. She sounds amazing. It's awesome to hear she was an OG truther, and I think she would have been awesome on this panel. I'd like to hear what
She
thinks about all this.
thank you so much for that. She would have absolutely loved this. Like this.
Oh.
She could have talked all day. And to hear her now, Mom, let's see, she would be 78 now if she was still with us. And a lot of this stuff, she'd have been like, I could have told you guys all this long ago.
She knew Kennedy was killed for trying to get rid of the gold standard by the CIA, and
Yeah,
we'll give your mom the top dog for the OG truther.
Nice. Her channel would have been called "I Told You So."
Pretty much, yeah.
Can I just point out, like, Sherlock, you spoke about the funding and policy and this psyops. I find it weird in the coincidence that Trump chimes in on this case at the same time is looking at disbanding the OCDTF, the drug task force, which Hurwitz was leading, and now he's in the court for this case. And those things seem to they keep circling back in my peripheral as to why. How does that whole program and his role in the courtroom, he had such a minor or such a short-lived role in the case for a case that went on for such duration. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Are you asking Sherlock or Robin?
I'm asking anyone.
Anyone?
I'll give you my thought.
I'm in Australia, so it's difficult to get some info.
It's I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's more than, for me personally, it's more than just Josh Hurwitz. It's also Boyd Jackson. Like, I see his tie. He has heavy ties to the Secret Service of the White House, and he's had an office there before. And so I'm seeing a lot of White House involvement with respect to the burying of exculpatory evidence in this case. For those who don't know, Boyd Jackson is the AT&T specialist that covered up, I'm just going to say it, covered up the timing advance records that are exculpatory to Brian Kohberger, and Cy called him out on it. And Judge Hippler used this fake idea that, well, Moscow Police Department had only 7 days at that time to get that timing advance data, which is the most important cell evidence in the case, obviously. And Moscow Police Department was not who was procuring the cell evidence. It was Detective Mowry and the FBI. And the FBI does not have that 7-day limitation. They could have had access to it at any time. And again, an honest investigator, there's not a platoon you could drop in there that would ever stop them from getting that. But yet no platoon, no pursuit.
No. And I sometimes feel now it's so funny. Not funny, but I honestly don't feel like any president has any business sticking his nose in something like this. And that might be unpopular with some people, and that's okay, because I don't shy away from that. What good did it do? Did it do any good for this case? Did it do any good for our justice system? All it did was deflect some attention, or maybe give some false hope to some people that his opinion may swing the pendulum in a different direction, or maybe force Brian somehow to cough up info, or because. And to go back to the Constitution, you can't force someone to get up there and recite that. It's just not in the Constitution. So you can't do it no matter who you are in our land. You can't do it.
It is interesting, because I think one of the things that Donald Trump has made clear is he can't stand federal overreach. I guess, on the surface. So that was my first thought of like, is he trying to talk about federal overreach? Now, that's a very broad and basic thought that I had about it. But what I will say is you would have thought the good that comes out of it, whether they're sticking their nose in it or not. See, like I found it weird that like in our worlds, this is a huge case. But like I made the example, I go up north for 4th of July. I'm sitting around a bonfire with 12 people. Nobody knows. They're like, what is that? Like this. So like I'm thinking like, damn, there's so much important shit from a standpoint of IgG being used as the evidence to arrest you, and then they don't tell you about it in court. The like you should know that they didn't get a warrant because it didn't have probable cause. And how did they not have probable cause? Well, they didn't have evidence. Like you should not be able to go and find somebody who spit in a tube to take their DNA and then put them on trial for the death penalty.
Agreed.
And go into those databases they weren't supposed to go in to get it all done
Agreed.
as well. And by the way, the prosecution didn't argue that point. Their argument wasn't we went into those databases for the greater good. We went into those databases for what they are. Go back and listen to that 2023 hearing. Their argument was that we as citizens do not have a privacy right to our own biological cell material.
Yeah.
It is not ours. It is theirs.
And that's
We
such
are their
bullshit.
lab rats. And that's what's so scary and concerning about a fire pit with your friends. And nobody knows about these issues, which absolutely impact the well-being of everybody. And by the way, not just us alive now, like that's an issue that impacts, like, people don't get this. Health insurance companies can use that to manage your coverage, and not just your coverage. It's your DNA, guys. This is going to negatively impact the coverage of your kids and their kids and their kids and their kids and their kids. This is a huge deal. So while I have a lot of respect and honestly love chilling around a fire with my friends and just to have fun and stuff like that, there also needs to be a balance. I know everyone's exhausted from work and everything too. I mean, I get that. It's just there has to be a balance. There's a certain level of social responsibility that we need to just bring to the forefront.
And I think this case has done exactly that. I mean, from Bertie, your introductions earlier, there was people from South Africa, Canada, Scotland, Sweden, Colombia, Chile. I'm in Australia. Like the conversations are there for you sitting around a campfire and people not knowing about the case. I was in an Apple store yesterday trying to resolve some fairly serious security issues, and the person helping me was from that region in the Pacific Northwest and had followed the case. So there's some really interesting conversations and some great discussions that hopefully do address just some of these issues. The DNA one and the use of our DNA is a huge one. Medical data is some of the most valuable data out there.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. And I would like to go back to Moto Man had given a super chat, and he had said at the beginning of the case, they were compelled to plead BK's innocence at their own merit. After the PCA was released, they then used the exact PCA to force BK into a guilty plea. Explain that. And I think that that was a good time to go back to that question, because it goes right along with the original evidence of this DNA. Now, something that's just absolutely chaps my khakis is that Bill Thompson has the balls to stand up there and say, I'm going to say never heard before information publicly for the first time. And he didn't say squat. He didn't say squat.
Nope.
And then he cried. Like, so the sad part is that there are people with a lot of influence on these platforms. And I would never say take away somebody's freedom of speech or platforms. You guys know I'm not like that. But to tie it back to Sherlock's, is I believe that there is a reason why channels like Lana's, channels like mine, Sherlock's, yours, Truth and Neurons, yours, Rob the Redneck, anybody in here, there's a reason why these channels, they get people to watch their stuff. It's because they know there's something inside of them that they're trusting their gut. Now they might not go sit around the campfire, or decide to blow someone's doors off at an Apple store on why Brian Koberger's innocent. I mean, I've done that. Don't get me wrong. I've unfortunately held people hostage that they're like, I can't wait till this guy shuts up. But where I'm going with that is for the PCA, what do you guys make of that for Bill getting up there and reading the same thing after giving that preface? Do you think that was just a psychological trigger to make people feel like, oh, this is new? Or like, what would he say that for?
I think everything in that court's performative. It's just, I'll let the others talk. I've got too many opinions.
Yeah. Okay.
I not only do I find his performance disgusting,
Yes.
but also, what self-respecting judge
Yeah.
allows that kind of horseshit to go on in their courtroom? I mean, I feel like in some ways, Judge was like,
Yeah.
maybe that's I don't know, but it just seems to me that why, as a judge, would you allow this mockery? Because you know better. You know that nothing that Thompson stood up and said was new. You knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Robin, he said one new thing.
Oh, okay.
He said one new thing, and I have the quote right here. I have it ready to go.
Bring it on.
All right. Now, as I read you this quote, remember that Brian just left his Steptoe Apartments, and there's police everywhere. There's police all over those apartments. So if he's going to go do these crimes, he's got to depart. He's got to egress and ingress back from the crime scene through all these police.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But he said something new. Bill Thompson, quote, "No." Oh, that's not the quote. Son of a gun.
Oh, you're good.
Hold on. Let me flip the page.
And for everybody that's
Oh,
tuning in
good.
here, thank you so much for being here for the roundtable. This is always awesome and fun. And again, just thank you to Sherlock and Robin and Truth and Neurons for being up and being conversation.
Thank you for the invite, Bertie.
Yes, thank you so much.
It's nice to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
love having a place where we can have these discussions. They're extremely important to have. Okay, the quote. Here's the quote from Geriatric Santa. Quote, "It's quite possible that Mr. Koberger did not choose the location of his attack until the moment before the crimes." He said that because he had just got finished saying that we don't have any evidence. We don't have any material evidence that we could produce in an open court of any kind, really, that means anything. So
yeah,
it's quite possible that Mr. Koberger did not choose the location of this attack until the moment right before the crimes, while police are everywhere around his own Steptoe Apartments, leaving and returning, that he drove his own car to the crime scene. He just got this wild hair up his ass, and he's like, I'm going to go kill 4 people.
So if that's the case, and I'm not a legal eagle here, but can that qualify as premeditation?
It's a good question. And that's what Amanda just had asked in the Hive.
Exculpatory evidence, in my opinion. But...
Right.
Yeah, no shit.
No.
Can I point out one other thing that did come up in that hearing that Ruby identified was actually Zana's dad, Jeff Knodel, talking about the phone call he received from Zana and pizza, etc. And like there was a whole, I remember early photos, there were the pizza boxes that were in the trash at the back of the house. And then there was in recent times, there was a lot of discussion around where were Zana and Ethan, in these hours. And that seemed to lead to the fact that they were home earlier.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a really good question.
So I wanted to talk about something that you brought up, Robin, which is like, how does Judge Hippler let that horse shit go on in a courtroom? I've said it the last couple streams. There's not a single order at all. Not once. You got Steve G that walks outside to the news media, right? And he can't wait to be asked about the podium being turned. The pride that he swells with, the smile of he's, the man for doing that, right? Is so off to me, and how he even points out, it says,
Yeah.
do not move. So like, I know there's people in here, like we have that Southern Blonde lawyer. I know it's Sammy T. Maybe Phoenix knows. Maybe one of you guys know. I want to know, because in other cases, they are so strict that somebody has sent me an email on their own victim impact statement that they had to make for their family member. And how they said that their judge was ultra strict. Like, they couldn't even look at the defendant, which is crazy. Now, I don't know if that's a judge discretion aspect, but here's my point. There are people who, prior to the sentencing and the victim impact statements, did we hear Judge Hippler say the little spiel whenever the judge is about to go to that section of the hearing where they go, now, you may not react, you may not speak out. If you do, you will be arrested. Like, do you guys know the little spiel that you never heard that?
Nope.
No.
Didn't hear anything.
So I want to know, in how many other courtrooms is Steve G immediately stopped, and arguably the ability to give a victim impact statement gets taken away? Like, that privilege is ruined because of that behavior. I don't know if moving court, like, isn't that, I don't know, it's just odd.
Isn't that something that most bailiffs would jump in and be like, whoa, what are you doing? You know, like, especially out of protection, like for the judge, because, you know, who knows what someone could do. So to me, moving that way would have prompted, wouldn't you think, a bailiff to be like, okay, no, you need to just, you know, calm down and just stay where you are.
And Sammy T just pointed it out. I gotta scroll back up and find it. She had said there was no rules of the road put out beforehand, and that's unheard of. So this is what I'm saying. And then you add on, dude is not facing the judge. He's not facing the seal. Is he in a legitimate court?
Yeah, Bertie, I think it's just, I think a lot of, I think this really speaks to how fast the plea deal happened, and the whiplash of the 180-degree turn between everybody representing everybody in this case, running towards a trial and trial prep and scheduling jury selection, to a sharp 180-degree about face, to now there's a plea deal. And all of that happened so fast. I think it could just be a symptom of how fast they put it together, and that there's a lot of moving parts, and it has to go a specific way. And so I think it's pressure. To be honest with you, I think the truth is catching up to them. And I think Judge Hippler feels that pressure. And I think that's why in part of his closing statements, he addressed us personally and admonished us all for for having opinions about our own sense of public safety through the medium of true crime, which is a perfectly healthy thing to do for a society. Those statements were totally inappropriate, but I think that when a beast is up against the wall and they're trapped, I think they lash out. I think that's what it is.
I agree. I do agree that the speed of it and up against the wall, you lash out for sure. I posted a TikTok and a short about or reel, whatever the hell you call it, and about how Brian Koberger, how weird is it? The plea and the sentencing, he's not facing it. The amount of people that were like, it's for the cameras, Birdie. I'm like, well, you clearly haven't watched any other hearing where they're on camera facing the judge with people in the background. If you're making a decision as a bystander or a journalist or somebody part of the media to go into that courtroom and sit there, which it's not a big courtroom, like Devil's Advocates got there at like 2 a.m. or some shit. Okay. You're making a conscious decision that you have a chance of being on national television. They're not going to change the cameras for people in the background on it. And that's what I said. I've looked up all these other high profile cases that were relatively recent, very similar to, single male in court all over the news. All of them face the judge. So now when you combine what I had just said, the outbursts, the clapping, the moving the podium, the not facing the seal, the defendant not saying anything, not standing, nothing. That's a media product. That screams PSY. Oh, Pete.
Aberrational.
Like,
Yeah.
yes.
Highly, highly aberrational. All
Yeah.
of it.
And go ahead.
Sorry, can we just talk about plea deals for a second?
Yeah.
Like plea deals. In preparation for this, I did some research and found some interesting stuff. I found one study by the Cato Institute, citation April of 2021. I found another citation of Duke Law Repository, citation February 2023, cited 53 times by peers, so highly cited source. And then, of course, there's Greg H., who's my favorite, from the Innocence Project. They did a study about plea deals. That data from that study was from August of 2019 to May 2023. And I have to say that it's very interesting that I don't want to give the impression that all plea deals are like false confessions. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, well, I'll just read you the quote. What they found was study practitioners identified flaws in over 70% of plea deals accepted by courts between the years 2018 and 2023. Either that they were false confessions to avoid sitting in prison on what's called judicial delay, because just our system is so gummed up that there's all these judicial delays, and a lot of people plead out just because of that. Or it's they found evidence of a coercive deal made to avoid the death penalty, and where the defendant claims they didn't commit the crimes, but don't want to face the death penalty. And I just wanted to point those studies out. That
can you repeat the number that you just said? The percentage.
Study practitioners identified flaws in over 70% of plea deals accepted by courts between 2018 and 2023.
70%.
70%.
Again, let me. That doesn't mean they're all bad plea deals. It just means that there are flaws that they identified, and it doesn't mean that every time they identify a flaw that it's for sure, some sort of corrupt deal. I don't want to give that impression. The Cato Institute study in particular was very clear about that. So, but yeah, it's a high number. It's definitely way over half of all plea deals between 2018 and 2023. And I'm just going to get this in real quick because I've got to run off soon. I'm so sorry about that.
Nope.
But
okay.
I want to get this in before I get it out. I wanted to just put that out there about the plea deals and maybe just give a sense of why Brian might take a plea deal. First of all, a plea deal is not a confession of any kind. That's the first thing.
No.
It is a deal that was offered so that he wouldn't get shot in the face by a firing squad. That's what it is. And presumably for something he might not have done. And to give you an example of why he would do something like that, because I know we all agonized over why someone who's innocent would do this. Here's why. Let me give you one example, okay? And let me preface that example by saying that none of us had to sit through 915 days of court hearings and be there for every single second of every single one, okay? We're able to pause, rewind, fast forward, watch when we want. Brian had to sit there the whole time. There's no escape for him. He has to experience every second of it real time. Okay, none of us had to do that. So that's the first thing. But talking about suspect vehicle 1, I was reviewing some information from the February 19th, 2023 order on defendant's motion for a Franks hearing. Okay, now I think we can all agree that if the car on Linda Lane or the car that's arriving at the Queen Road residence between the hours of 3:30 a.m. to 4:21 a.m., if that's not Brian's car, then Brian didn't do this. I think that's pretty clear.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with that. Okay, so the FBI had a vehicle analyst who studied these footages, and a lot of people might have heard this before, but I think it's a good example of why Brian psychologically took this plea deal. I'll read you a little bit of this court order. This was written by Judge Hippler, order on defendant's motion for Franks hearing, February 19th, 2023. Defendant claims that the FBI vehicle specialist felt more comfortable setting a 2011 to 2013 Elantra date range is based on an email chain between FBI Special Agent Immel who is the FBI's vehicle analyst, and another FBI agent. Hippler states, quote, the November 26, 2022 email chain directed the FBI to open up their search to include 2014 to 2016 date range. Therefore, defendant has not shown any omission to be exculpatory or material. It cannot be reasonably concluded that Agent Immel's preference for a narrower date range would have changed anything. Now, that's interesting, right? Because 2 sentences ago, he just said it was Immel's decision to open up the date range. Now, 2 sentences later, he's saying it cannot be reasonably concluded that Agent Immel's preference for a narrower date range would have changed anything. Wait a minute. So he had a preference for a narrower date range.
Yep.
That's like a direct contradiction on whether suspect vehicle 1, as we know it from the footage, which is the Linda Lane footage, which is in the court documents. They use this footage, guys. Okay? It's on the docket. Okay, so let's read the email exchange then. We have to go to the actual email exchange. I have that here. November 26, 2022. Agent Immel received a message that read, quote, we are looking for a response to our August query regarding expanding make, year, model, date range to include 2014 to 2016 Elantras and whether the additional materials provided satisfy these requirements. Immel's response, quote, in order to consider 2014 to 2016 expansion, I would need to see a better shot of the vehicle's front fog lights and rear reflectors. I'd rather not leave anything out. Better safe than sorry, end quote. Email respondent complies, sends new images. 5 minutes later, Immel responds, quote, yeah, I see the images. I see the change in the 2014 to 2016. I'm not really a fan. I much prefer sticking with the 2011 to 2013 range. Have a good night. Which the only way to interpret that is that he's rejecting opening the make. Yeah, it's a rejection. It's a clear rejection. There's no other way. You cannot just flip base reality and say that he pushed for it to be open. He rejected it.
Yeah.
The FBI analyst says this is not Brian's car. Okay. And the way it ends, have a good night, implies to me that they were badgering him about this. And he's like, I don't feel comfortable with it. I'd much prefer sticking with what we have. Don't email me again. Have a good night. That's how it reads to me, right?
That's
Okay.
a great take. That's honestly a great
so
take.
Now, back to Hippler's ruling. Quote, these emails demonstrate that it was agent. This is Hippler's court order and his reasoning for denying a Franks motion. Quote, these emails demonstrate that it was Agent Immel's decision to open the date range to 2014 to 2016, despite his preference for a narrower range. Considered as a whole, it cannot be reasonably concluded that Agent Immel's preference for a narrower date range would have derailed the magistrate's findings of probable cause had it been included. Probable cause is not an exact science and does not require that law enforcement establish with absolute certainty that the facts alleged are in fact true. Thus, a Franks hearing is not warranted on this issue. Law enforcement does not need to establish with absolute certainty that the facts alleged are even true. The facts of whether it's his car or not, yes, you do. You do have to absolutely be certain it's his car. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And that is included with the probable cause burden. The probable cause burden might as well not exist if it's that low. Like, I don't know. It just makes me upset. You know, Judge Hippler really just, so think about that from Brian's perspective. He sat through every second of 915 days of court hearings, and he knows that there's no chance for him at a trial. He knows it's all rigged against him. He has brought exculpatory evidence to bear in open court, and it has been rejected with respect to, you know, in complete violation of all aspects of base reality. It has been rejected. This is what he was dealing with. Him and Ann were dealing with this. And he doesn't want to get shot in the face. Yeah, I would probably take the plea deal too. So to anybody out there who thinks that, well, he confessed and I have to take his word for it. No, guys, again, I'll remind you that study practitioners found that in over 70% of plea deals accepted by courts between the years of 2018 to 2023, there were flaws, either to avoid the death penalty or because of judicial delay, which is another issue. I'll do a video about judicial delay, but everybody should know about judicial delay. there's such a huge backlog in our judicial system that people are sitting so long in prison, not proven guilty yet. Like, so they're going to plea out without any due process. This is where our tax money is going.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well said.
And you said November 26, 2022 was that email, correct?
The email exchange was between Special Agent Immel and another ex-FBI agent. The timestamp on the email exchange was November 26, 2022. Yes.
Yeah, and it was November 29 that I think, Sherlock, maybe you mentioned it, Tiago and another WSU PD
You're
officer
totally
identified
right.
Brian's.
Oh my God.
Wow.
You're right. Whoa.
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that.
Say that again, Truth and Neurons.
So 26th is this email around changing the year of the Elantra, and it's 3 days later, November 29, 2022, was the day that it was identified that Brian had a white Elantra. So 3 days after that email.
So they were already
I'm sure it's a
arguing about
coincidence.
Elantras. Okay, so that proves that they were already arguing about Elantra. Yeah, that's crazy. So we have just gotten no truth at all in this case.
And then
This is crazy.
we mentioned it offline before the stream around that Tiago was at 1122 King Road, and then that got changed or hidden, or who mentioned that? Was it you?
The Kopaka incident, Officer Tiago was at the scene.
Yep.
Early, too early, and he was caught lying about it.
Yep. Exactly.
And he's the same person who 3 days after that email exchange was the one who called. He was the WSU officer that called in Brian's car. I mean, get these people in an interrogation room. I think they'll crack in under 5 minutes, under 5 hours. You know what I mean?
5 minutes.
Get Brett Payne, get Officer Tiago, get Rosendahl, get these guys in an interrogation room. They're cracking in under 5 minutes, making out in under 5 minutes. Honestly,
amen to that.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect spot to start to wrap up this roundtable, especially to Sherlock. If you got to get out of here, Robin, Truth and Neurons, give us your 60-second hot take closing thoughts for this roundtable. Anything? One of you guys can go first, or you?
I'll go first. So my hot take is parallel investigation, DEA timing, including the James Bailey arrests and the Aryan prison gang. They needed a patsy. It ties into some of the key events in Washington State University, from having a God. There's two different things happening at the same time. So yeah, I'm just going to go with DEA arrests, Hurwitz in the court, parallel investigation. That's our take on it, I think.
I would have to agree with that. I think that there's just too much to do with the cartels and, her being in that area, so much FBI presence in that area to not be some type of a parallel investigation.
Well, and you all know how I feel, and I just want to say from the bottom of my heart to you all that are here on I think
he froze.
Air just kicked out. If I just glitched out, that's why. Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
You're back. Yeah.
Your air conditioner is a Fed, Birdie.
It is. It's a Fed. And here's what I'm going to say. I'll finish with this. Okay. Thank you to everybody who's been on the roundtable, and it's refreshing to meet other people genuinely. Like if you guys are ever on the roundtable, like we talk backstage, and it's just exactly like this. There's no difference. There's no script. We are going off the cuff. And what I'm so thankful and grateful for is that I found other people that agree and understand that you don't need to get permission from anybody to question stuff. You don't need to get permission from anybody to think like everyone else. You can think freely. You have your own mind. You're surrounded by other minds like that here in the Hive, which is what is so special about this. And I will always continue to do these roundtables the last Sunday of every month. And Robin, Truth and Neurons, Sherlock Roams, you guys brought it tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your effort. To everybody in the Hive, thank you for the questions, all of the super
pleasure.
chats. I will have
Absolutely loved it.
yes.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Yep.
I'm
Thanks
glad-
for having me.
So with that being said, Hive, tomorrow, 7 p.m., Scott Payne, undercover FBI agent, will be here in the Hive. I am so excited for him. And then we have Ali Benevento on Tuesday. So think about that. We went Roundtable, Scott Payne, Ali Benevento. The Hive is picking up momentum. We're not slowing down. And I will be back here with you all tomorrow at 7 Central. Good night, everybody. Cheers.
Much love, everybody.
See
Good
ya.
night.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.